We're on Daf Kuf. We got up to Higdilu Hatarovos, which is after the two dots, about halfway down, a little bit more than halfway down the Amud on Daf Kuf Amud Aleph. And we have one last piece of Gemara until we get to the Mishnah on the bottom of the Amud. So this is one Gemara that we didn't get to. Gemara is bothered by the language shicharu. Now, shicharu means that on their own initiative, in this case of a tarovus of a mixture, we don't know which one is the Evan and which one is the Ben Chorin. Iboy in. Shicharu means that on their own initiative, they will decide whether they want to be Meshachar. But iloboy, if they don't want to be Meshachar, lo, we cannot force them. So the Gemara immediately asks Amai, why is it a matter of initiative, of a personal decision, and Allah is not going to force them and compel them to be Meshachar? We have a Mishnah elsewhere that indicates that in a case of a taroves, we can force them to give a get shichur. What do we mean by taroves? A taroves means that the situation is such that they can't marry anybody. Why can't they marry anybody? Lisa shivchei yochol and baschorin yochol. If they want to marry a shivcha, maybe he's not an eved, maybe he's a ben chorin, because the vlados got mixed up in the taroves. To let him marry a baschorin, that he can't do because maybe he's an eved. So he caught between a rock and a hard place. And we have a Mishnah with regard to Misha Chetzio Eved, Chetzio Ben Chorim. And this Mishnah is in Gittin Daf Mem Aleph, that we force him to give a get shichur. We cannot allow a situation in which a man, who in this case is a Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Ben Chorim, means he was owned by partners, one of which was Meshachar, is half. That makes him half a Ben Chorim. The other partner decide, no, I want to hold on to him as an Eved. We're going to force that partner who's holding on to him as an Eved to be Meshachar, because this Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Ben Chorim can marry neither a Shivcha nor a Bas Chorim. He can't marry a Shivcha because maybe he's a Ben Chorim. He can't marry a Bas Chorim because maybe he's an Eved. So this is called a famous principle of the Gemara in Bava Basra, Kofin is Rabbah, the Ose Oso Ben Chorim. In order to facilitate and permit marriage, in a case where there is no possibility of marriage because of the half avdus, we will force the owner of the Eved to be Meshachar the Eved. That's the case of Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Ben Chorim, which is explicitly addressed in the Mishnah in Gittin. And we're going to apply that principle here to the case of a taroves, where once again, we don't know his status. Is he a Ben Chorin, because he was born to a Ben Chorin, or is he an Eved because he was born to a Shifta? Omar Rava, Ema. When does the Mishnah apply the principle of Kofin Oso Meshachar Zetzeh? Then in order to allow this person to get married, we're going to force the Adon, the master, to deliver get and be Meshachar his portion. That's not only in the case of Chatzi Eved Ben Chorim, but that's also in our case. And the Mishnah says Shichru et Zetzeh, and we're going to change the Mishnah to say Kofin Oso Meshachar Zetzeh. So we'll have to make that amendation on the Lashon of the Mishnah. And the Mishnah says, no sim aleim chumrei. Right? We have a person who's a Suffolk Kohen, Suffolk Yisrael, because of the mixture. We have to impose upon him the chumras of both Kohanim and Yisrael. L'may hilchas. What dinim do you have in mind when the Mishnah says that we give them both the chumrah of Kohanim and the chumrah of Yisrael? And the chumrah of Kohanim I can understand. He's limited in who he's allowed to marry. He's certainly not allowed to be metame l'mesim. He can't go into a cemetery. But what chumrah are you imposing upon him if he's a Yisrael and not a Kohen? Or a couple in minchasam. We have a special din and status of the minchas kohanim. The minchas kohanim is kulo kolil. It's completely burnt on the mizbech. Haktorah kolil. However, with regard to a minchas kohen, there's no avoda of a matir with a nitar because the whole karban, the whole mincha is kulo kolin. Masha'en came in the case of a minchas Yisrael, a non-kohen who brings a mincha, there's going to be a matir and an isur. What does that mean? The matir is called kmitza, and that kmitza is a matir on the shirayim, and the shirayim are eaten l'zichrei kahuna. So whereas in the case of a mincha brought by Kohen, there is no kmitza because it's kulo kolil. If it's brought by Yisrael, you require kmitza. And then the remainder after the kmitza, which is called shirayim, is nechal l'kohen. So that's what our Papa is saying over here. That when it says that we're going to impose the chumras of both Kohanim and Yisraelim on this suffix, on this taroves, it means that on the one hand, we're going to have to do kmitza because a minchas Yisrael requires kmitza. That is the mitzvah, the avoda of a minchas Yisrael. But on the other hand, in a case of a minchas Yisrael, the kmitza is matir, the shirayim, for achilas hakohen. But on the side that he's really a kohen, then minchas kohenim has to be kulo kolil. Is therefore in necheles ki minchas kohenim. Okay, so what do you do in this case? A kometz karev biatzmon, v'shirayim krevim biatzmon. So on the one hand, you're going to have to do kmitza, and that's because of your chumrah, you're being machmir that he's in Yisrael, and it's a minchas Yisrael. And then you're going to be makriv the shirayim b'fnei atzma. Why do I sense that we learned this tomorrow once? No? I'm having like a deja vu of some sort. All right. So the Gemara says the following: this cannot be. Why? Ikri Khan. Now, for this Ikri Khan, we have to read the pasuk, and the pasuk says, "Ki chol si'or v'chol dvash lo saktiru bimenu ishei Hashem, ishel Hashem." Let's darshan this pasuk. Kol shemimenu leishim hareu v'bal taktiru. When you are maktir, part of a carbon, a chelik of the carbon, which is royal haktir, it's meant and designated for haktorah, and whatever is left over after the haktorah, notice you are maktir the chelik that's royal haktir, the shirayim is asur bibal taktiru. You're not allowed to be maktir on the mizbeach. So whenever you have a carbon that's made up of two segments, two parts, one part is royal haktorah, And the other part, by definition, is not royal Torah. And if you would be maktir that other part, you violate the Isur Bal Taktiru. And that's kol shevimenuli isha, meaning part of it is going to the fire, meaning to the Torah. And Bal Taktiru applies to the Shirayim. And if that be the case, then we don't understand Rav Papa's interpretation of our mission. How could you be maktir the Shirayim of the Mincha? It says here, Kometz kore b'fnei atzmo, and then Shirayim kravim b'fnei atzmo, meaning they're brought on the Mizbeach. You can't possibly say such a thing. We have a principle, that if part of the carbon is brought on the Eish, then the rest of the carbon you're not allowed to bring on the Eish. That's Baal Taktir, it's a lot. So how can you, Rav Papa, possibly say that Maktirin et Shiorei HaMincha? Yeah, we definitely learned this commandment. Yeah. Why I messed up. Sometimes not careful about writing myself a note. Forget it. Okay, it doesn't matter. You know what? Chazar is always good. Basically, again, to summarize the objection of the Gemara against Rav Papa, it comes out that the Shirayim Kravim B'fnei Atzmo is a violation of Baal Taktiru. But now, we have a suffix situation. We don't know how to treat this carbon. It might be a mincha of a kohen, and therefore we really do have to be maktir the entire mincha. So is there a way that we can circumvent the problem of bimenu li'ishim harei hu b'bal taktiru and allow for the burning of the rest of the mincha? And the Gemara says, yes, we have such a possibility. On Rabbi Yehuda Brei Rabbi Shimon Pasuk, the masik lahu l'shum eitzin. That when the Kohen gets around to the Shirayim and he wants to be makir of them on the Mizbech, he makes a t'nai. He says the following: if this is a Minchas Yisrael, and then therefore there's a lava bal taktiru on the Shirayim, it has to be by the Kohen, and you're not allowed to be makir of it. I'm not going to be makir of it as Haktorah, but rather as Eitzim. And that reflects the Shita of Rabbi Elazar. The Sanya Rabbi Elazar Omer. So now we're talking about a chatos that got mixed up with an olah. And you cannot be makriv this mixture because a varei chatos asurim b'Torah. And that comes under the principle of kol shevimenu li'ishim. So since part of the chatos was already brought on the Mizbeach, that was royal Mizbeach like Torah, what do we do with the other Eivarim? And the answer is we put them on the Mizbeach and we see that we have both Basar Chatos on the Mizbeach as if they were Eitzim. That's how we're going to define it, as if they were Eitzim. Since he's not being mechavein to be mocked to them as Haktorah, but rather than Shem Eitzim, there's no Isur Bal Taktiru. Because the Torah says, Al Mizbech lo yalu l'reach nichach, meaning your intention was to be makted on the Eish, l'reach nichach, iatamala, avatamala Shem Eitzim. So Gemara is still not happy. Onichel Rabbi Elazar, he's the one who holds that you have a takana to this Tarova situation, you have a way out to rectify, to solve the problem of mincha of a Taroves by being mocked to the Shirayim L'Shem Eitzim. The Rabbanon never accepted the view of Rabbi Elazar as far as every chatus and every olah that got mixed up. They hold that we cannot bring them on the Mizbech even L'Shem Eitzim. That's called to Ubar Tzurasim the Eitzim L'Beis HaSreifa. Is Michael Meimar. How could you be makir of this tarovas of two minchas, whether it's a minchas Kohen, minchas Yisrael? There's an Isur Lav Val Taktiru, and the Rabban never accepted Tanai. He can't just say L'Shem Eitzim. And the Gemara says the Ovid lay ki Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. Now we have a different Rabbi Elazar, not the original Rabbi Elazar, but now we have Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. And he's addressing the issue of Minchas Chotei Shel Kohen. Kohen Niskayev Korban Olav Yoreh, but Ein Hu Ani. So this is already a Korban Olav Yoreh, in which case a fallback position for such an ani, for such a poor person, is to bring a mincha. So instead of bringing a korban zevach behema, he brings a mincha because he's an ani, and that's called an olav yoreh. Let's go over it. So Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon says that a minchas chotei shel kohen, and it requires kmitza, like the mincha of Yisrael. Really interesting. For some reason, this doesn't come under the general principle of Minchas Kohen, which is Kulei Kolah. Mishum de Minchas Kohen nemar, Minchas Chotei nemar, v'hoisal HaKohen kim mincha. And Reb Shimon derives from this that im HaChotei Kohen, din minchaso, kim minchas Yisrael shehinik metzes. Wow. It's be an amazing quiz question. Where do you find a minchas kohen that requires kmitza? That's going to be a minchas chotei in a case of an ani with regard to a korban olav yoreh. And that mincha is going to require kmitza. So the shirayim we leave in the Beis Hadeshen or below the Beis Hadeshen, and that's where they left the Trumas Hadeshen, which they took off from the Mizbeach. Is afilu Rabbana, even according to Racham, all the minchas chotei shel kohen eino nekmetzes. But rather, Yamatir Kula lo pligi aleder Elazar Shimon el b'minchas chotei shel kohanim gebas hakrove, and a minchas chotei shel kohanim is like a mincha, regular mincha, like an adava. It's muteres kolil. Aval chachav a mincha shemakrivim arovos sheshiyari mincha heim b'safek. Shema Einam Ru'uyim Lak Torah Klal. Is Afilu Rabbanan mode. Again, in the case of a Minchas Chotei Shel Kohen, that's the same status going to Chacham as Minchas Nedava, and we have to burn the entire Mincha. But here, we're talking about a Mincha that's being brought by this Taroves, and we don't know the status of the Chiori Mincha. It's a suffix. Are they royal Torah or not royal Torah? Filu Rabbanan Modu, in this case, even the Rabbanan would agree that Yispazru al Beis Hadesh. Okay. Well, that's really a Kajim Sugya. Let's start the Mishnah. When a man divorces his wife, or never he dies, his wife is not allowed to get married for 3 months. Why? Because we want to make sure that she wasn't pregnant at the time of her husband's death or the time that he gave her a divorce. And once a 3-month period passes, as we learned in last week's parsha, then Hukar Ubar, we know whether she's pregnant or not. But this man, after he died or gave her a get, his wife went ahead, jumped the gun, and she got married within 3 months, without waiting 3 months. She went ahead and got married. Again, she was married on a Doraisa level, it was perfectly legal. I mean, her husband died, he gave her a get. But on a Drabbana level, we're not going to allow her to get married. She went ahead and she got married. And not only that, Yolda, 7 months later, after she became pregnant, she gave birth. Ein Yadua im ben Shiva l'Rishon, im ben Shiva l'Liach. We don't know whether this was a preemie that came from her second husband, he's the father, or perhaps it might be that this Vlad is a full 9-month Vlad. So again, she gave birth 7 months after her wedding. There are all sorts of jokes about that, but we leave out the jokes. She gave birth 7 months after she stood under the chuppah with the second husband. Did she give birth to the child of the second husband? It was premature, or was this the Vlad, because she was already pregnant at the time of the wedding of the first husband? So we don't know who the father of this girl is, or the son. Is he the son of the first or the son of the second? So he's going to give names here. Rachel is married to both Avraham and then subsequently to Yitzchak. Right? And she married Yitzchak 2 months after Avraham, her first husband, passed away. So we don't know whether Avraham is the father of the son born now after 7 months of the second match, or Yitzchak, the second husband, is the father. She has other sons from Avram, her first husband, and other sons from Yitzchak, her second husband. So in this case, the Mishnah Paskins Cholzin v'lo miyavnu. These brothers, or shall we say sons of Avram and Yitzchak, effectively, will give chalitza. Now the Mishnah doesn't mention to whom are these brothers, are these sons giving chalitza. So we have to add another piece of the puzzle, right? Rachel was married first to Avram. He died, and she married Yitzchak within a short period of time after Avram's death. He gave birth to a suffix. We don't know if he's the son of Avram, which means he's ben Tisha Chadashim L'Richon, or he's the son of Yitzchak, and he's a primi, and he's born after 7 months. Now, Rachel, in her marriage with Avram, had a son whose name is Reuven. So notice that Reuven is now a suffix ach. He may or may not be a brother to the child that was born immediately after Yitzchak's marriage to Rachel. Now, Rachel and Yitzchak had another son by the name of Levi. Again, there's Reuven, who's a definite son of Rachel and Avram. There's Levi, who's a definite son of Rachel and Yitzchak. And now the suffix comes. But we omitted the fact that Suffix married a woman by the name of Sarah. Now Sarah falls for Yibum. She should be falling for Yibum to the brother of the Suffix. But who is the brother of the Suffix? We don't know who the father of the Suffix is. How do we know who his brother is? So if I understand correctly, Reuven and Levi share the same mother. So we know that they're brothers from the mother, but that's not going to help us as far as Yibum is concerned. Yibum depends upon brothers from the father. And since the suffix might be the son of Avram or might be the son of Yitzchak, it means the suffix might be the brother of Reuven or he might be the brother of Levi. Again, he's definitely the brother of both Reuven and Levi as far as maternal is concerned. But as far as paternal brotherhood is concerned, we don't know if this suffix is a paternal brother of Reuven or a paternal brother of Levi. And the nafkamina is with regard to Yibum Sarah, who was married to the suffix. She falls for Yibum now. And we have two possible Yevamim, one of which is the surviving brother of the suffix, which is the husband of Sarah, and the other is also a suffix if he's the surviving brother of the suffix. He's Levi. So we have Reuven and Levi. So both Reuven and Levi are in this situation where they have a suffix. So the Mishnah paskins that both of them have to give chalitza to Sarah, the wife of the suffix. V'lo miyab. Now, if I understand lo miyabim means that, 1 second. That is no, if the brotherhood is only on the mother's side, then there's Ashes Ach, right? Because we said that even if two brothers share the same mother alone, meaning with to the exclusion of the father, there's no Yibum and there's an error of Ashes Ach. Right? The fact that it's only a half brother, that doesn't in any way mitigate the error of Ashes Ach. So Yibum is out of the question here because you never know whether Reuven is the brother of the suffix or Shimon is the brother of the suffix. What you do know is that the suffix is a for sure on both sides, on Reuven and Levi's side, is an Ashes Ach. Right? Rivka is an Ashes Ach, insofar as she was married to the suffix. Is it an Ashes Ach with a mitzvah of Yibum or an Ashes Ach because they share the same mother and it's a pure erva without a mitzvah of Yibum? Well, that we don't know. So she definitely needs chalitza, but to marry someone else from the shuk because she definitely falls to Yibum either to Reuven or to Shimon, or what do we say, to Reuven or Levi, we said. So there's one thing that there's no doubt about, and that is that Sarah definitely desperately needs chalit. Does she need chalitza from Reuben or from Levi? We don't know, and therefore we're going to require chalitza from both of them. But if either Reuben or Levi would be interested in marrying Sarah, let's say Reuben says, I have Ruach HaKodesh, and I know that this suffix was my brother, because he was born to Avram, it's my brother, and therefore I know that Sarah falls for Yibur. Well, with all due respect to your Ruach HaKodesh, we don't trust your Ruach HaKodesh, because we think, in fact, it's possible that suffix was born to Yitzchak. And if Yitzchak is the father of the suffix, then Levi is the Yavam. So Reuven cannot establish himself through Ruach HaKodesh as the Vada Yavam of the suffix, because it could be that Levi is the Yavam of the suffix. And therefore, Yibum is out of the question. Okay, now we go on. V'cheinu lahem choletz v'lo miyabim. Okay, what's v'cheinu lahem? Now we're going to reverse it, and one of the two brothers, Reuven and Levi, dies without a child. Reuven is married to Sarah, and Levi is married to Rivka. And now Sarah and Rivka fall for Yibum to the suffix. So choletz v'lo miyabim. Once again, the suffix could not implement Yibum with regard to Sarah or Rivka, because Sarah or Rivka might be Eshes Achiv Me'ima, which is an Erva. So there's no possibility of Yibum. So far, so good. Now we turn to Kufam and Beis. Hoya lo la suffix achim min arisha the achim min asheni shalome osa ha'em. Okay, so here he has it the following. Rachel was married to Avram, and Avram had another wife named Leah, and from that other marriage, they had a child named Reuven. After Avram's death, Rachel marries Yitzchak, and from that marriage they have, I'm sorry. We have the suffix, right? We don't know if the suffix is the son of the marriage between Avram and Rachel or between Rachel and Yitzchak. That remains constant. But just like we said that Avram had a different wife besides Rachel, whose name was Leah, and from that marriage between Avram and Leah, they had a child named Reuven. So too, Yitzchak, who's Rachel's second husband, had a son from a marriage to Chana, and his name is Levi. Okay, now Reuven, who's definitely the son of Avram and Leah, gets married to Sarah. Levi, who's definitely the son of the marriage between Yitzchak and Chana, Levi dies. So both Reuven died and Levi died. And each one's wife wife, respectively, whether it's Sarah, the wife of Reuben, or Rivka, the wife of Levi, now fall for Yibum. To whom do they fall for Yibum? To the suffix. Just 1 second. Because that suffix might be the son of Avram, the brother of Reuven who died, or might be the son of Yitzchak, and if he's the son of Yitzchak, he's the brother to Levi who died, and he be chayiv in Yibum to Rivka. If, on the other hand, the suffix is the child of Avram and Rachel, then he is the brother of Reuven. So I don't understand. Why can't he be miyabim both of them? What am I missing here? If he's the brother of Reuven, then he's chayav in Yibum to Sarah Eshes Reuven. If he's the brother of if he's the son of Yitzchak, then he's a brother of Levi, and he's chayav to be miyabim Levi's wife Rivka. So what's the issue over here? It says choletz umiyabim, who choletz, and he's miyabim. He says here choletz misafik lishazu umiyabim v'yochel af liyabima mimonavshel. Im Ila mes is hoya achiv min ha'af. V'arei mekayim b'zeh mitzvus yibum if eino achiv harei hi nachris ligabav u'muteres li. Again, I don't think, can't he be miyabim both of them? 1 second. V'heim echad choletz v'echad miyabim. Oh, that's going to be the case with the suffix dog. But now we're looking at a case where the Vadai dies, the Vadai son of Avram and the Vadai son of Yitzchak. So why can't he be miyabim both of them?
He can. I mean, in one case,
He can.
right.
So
I mean,
is that how we're interpreting hu choletz umiyabim? Well, how do you translate those words? Hu choletz umiyabim.
So
I guess we're assuming he doesn't want to be miyabim both of them. Is that what we're assuming?
I mean, he can do chalitza with both of them. He can
do yibum with both of them.
Yibum with both of them. He can do 1 and 1. I mean, he's got all these options. I mean, and
so
in one case it's gonna be true yibum, in the other case it's just gonna be
right. They'll be marrying a friend, or a strange woman. But how are we reading this into the words of the Mishnah here? Choletz umiyabim means either you can be choletz, because he throws me off here. He writes choletz misafik le'ichazu umiyabim v'yochel af liyabma. That same woman that he was choletz, he could have just as well, instead of chalitza b'im miyabim on. Okay, I'm going to work with that assumption. Now v'heim meaning the suffix died without any children, is then echad choletz, the echad miyabim. Let's just think how that works out. So now the suffix dies, and he leaves a wife named Sarah. And this suffix, we don't know if his father was Avram or Yitzchak. Now, Avram had another wife from which they had a child named Reuven. So the suffix might be the brother of Reuven from the father of Avram. Now the suffix dies. So Reuven might be in a Yibum situation. If the father of the suffix was Avram, then Reuven is his paternal brother, and he can have the shot at Yibum. I don't know let's see why not. What's the problem here? Since Rachel was married to a second husband, Yitzchak, we're not sure the suffix might be a product of that marriage. Right, and Levi might be. So what's the deal here? Echad cholitz v'echad miyaven. Once again, I'm trying to figure out, could one of them be could we have Reuven, we have Levi. One is a Yavam. So we don't know whether Reuven or Levi is the Yavam. What's going to be the deal in this case? Echad oletz vi echad miyaven. Is he saying that one of them?
Yeah, one does chalitza, which either, if it's the valid one, releases her so that the other person can marry her because or if she's not the correct one, then when the other one marries her, he was the true love.
Right. So in order for one of them to be miyabim her, she's got to get chalitza from the other one,
right?
Because it could be the other one is the real yavam, and therefore she's good to him, and someone bin ashuk is not allowed to marry her. So that someone who might be bin ashuk has to guarantee that she had chalitza. So I don't know exactly how they divvy it up. They fight it out. It's like kol hakodim zochim.
If neither one wants to, then I can both.
Right. Then she should marry someone else from the shuk. All right, let's stop here. I know we're still in the midst of this long Mishnah here, but tomorrow is Monday. So let's see if we can indicate here Haya Echad Yisrael, which is on line 3. Am I right? So that's going to be Monday. Okay, good. We had two different limudim today, and we made some serious progress. The only thing is we need some photocopying in Masechet. Okay, then. So let me wish you a great day and happy Chodesh Teves. Thank you so much.